Somewhere along life I learned big boys don't cry. I was never told that. When I'd get hurt or frustrated, I'd just get angry. I was watching her go through this sickness and it was killing me because I couldn't help her. I mean, you ever been in that situation you want to help somebody and you can't? My name is Gary Moyer, and I am the Vice President for Administration here at the Carolina Conference. So I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, in the north, medium-sized city. I grew up going to church every Sunday because it was kind of our tradition. You know what it's like, you just do things because you've been doing them that way. And though I never really got any lasting spiritual meaning out of going to church, at least that time in my life. I had a philosophy of life, and that is because I go to church and I put some money in the offering plate, then I guess I'm okay with God. But I really had to wonder about it sometimes. If someone would come knocking at the door and want to talk to me about Jesus or ask me if I'm saved, I was very uncomfortable with that. I mean, I just labeled them as Jesus freaks, but of course not to their face, because remember, I'm a good person. I would just think it and think, why are they bothering me? I go to church. I mean, what's the deal? But I had to wonder sometimes, because there was in my life this unexplainable lack of peace, a missing peace, P-E-A-C-E, lack of direction in life. But I also had a philosophy of life that didn't help, and I didn't really think it through, and that was, if I'm going to do something, get something, or go somewhere today that's good, then I'm going to have a good day. If I don't do something, get something, or go somewhere that's good today, I might be depressed. And that's really a lousy way to live. I also worried a lot. I don't know, I think I inherited that from one of my parents. I won't tell you which one. And then I worried that I was worrying too much. And it's a vicious cycle. I was into music, still am, love music. I was in a couple of rock bands, local rock bands, weekend rock bands, nothing big. And I pretty much got involved with all the things you would expect someone who's in a secular rock band. But again, there was just something not quite there. Well, then one day I met this girl and life started looking up. You know what they say, well, that guy just needs a good woman in his life. Well, I found a good woman, found her at Bill Daniels' Rock Palace. I was there one night to check out the bands. Well, I wasn't only checking out the bands, but was there one night, met her name was Laurie. We kind of hit it off, started dating. And one night we were back at Bill Daniels' Rock Palace, up in the second floor in the lounge where we can actually hear each other talk because the band's downstairs. And she started coughing again. I noticed she coughed a lot, and I thought, well, she's got a cold hanging on, but this time she just kept coughing, and she was turning red and then just about blue. And finally, when she got done, she looked very embarrassed and she's catching her breath. And I said, wow, that's some cold you got. And then she kind of looked down. She said, no, it's not a cold. I said, oh? She said, no, I have cystic fibrosis. I said, what's that? And then she explained, she said, well, it's genetically acquired. She said, I have to do a couple hours of breathing treatments every day, coughing stuff out of my lungs to stay alive. And I have pancreatic involvement. I have to take enzymes. And then she said, the doctors say I may not live to be 30. I didn't know God at that time in my life yet, but I just felt like God saying, you don't let that deter you. You got a good woman here. She was 20 at that time. And then she said, I can understand if you don't want to see me anymore. Well, little did I know, though, that she was telling me that because what had happened in the past was she'd get a boyfriend, they'd get going steady, and then she'd break the news and they'd be history. Well, we got married, and we had a great marriage, really did. But it wasn't all that long after I was married that emptiness started creeping back in my life. And I felt bad about it, because here I told her she was what gave meaning to my life, and now I'm feeling that emptiness again. Little did I know she was dealing with the same thing. And we had stopped going to church by then, I think, pretty much, or kind of on and off. Then one day her father, who was a salesman, gave us a cassette tape by a man named Zig Ziglar, a motivational speaker. I never heard of this guy before, but I thought, well, I'll listen to it. You know, her dad will be happy if I listen to it. And I really liked this guy. I mean, he was funny, he was motivational, I learned a lot of stuff. I listened to him driving to and from work. I worked at a factory at that time, processing catalytic converters and so on. It was kind of a boring job, but it paid the bills. Started listening to this guy and got to like him, and so did my wife, Laurie. Then one day, her father gave us another cassette by Zig called Christian Testimony. And the title really didn't interest me, but I liked Zig, so I thought, well, I'll listen to it. And over time, it started to affect me. And I finally began to understand some things. And I felt like God was using Zig to talk directly to me. You ever watch something or listen to something, it just sounds like it's for you? And I felt God saying through Zig Ziglar, you know, Gary, I know you think you're a pretty good person. I understand that. And you are, relatively speaking, but you know what? There's a challenge. I love you. I'm crazy in love with you. I want to be with you forever, but sin's a problem, and you've got sin in your life. We've all sinned. The Bible says, Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And for the first time in my life, I realized I was a sinner. I really didn't understand that before. I really thought, I'm good, I'm okay. And so I learned as I listened to Zig that God sent Jesus to take care of the problem. Immediately I had peace in my life. Well, I got home and I told Laurie about this experience, and she said, I know. I said, what do you mean you know? She said, I did that 2 weeks ago. I accepted Christ after listening to that cassette, and I've been praying for you. Then one day we were listening to Christian radio, found out there were Christian songs besides hymns. We started listening to this, and there was this guy on the radio, this pastor called Derek Morris. And he was from the Allentown Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'd never heard of a Seventh-day Adventist church. In fact, he had a British accent, and I thought he said Seventh Day of Venice. And I'm thinking, okay, British accent, church from Venice. My wife said, no, Seventh-day Adventist. She said, my mom went to a cooking school years ago in Warminster, Pennsylvania. They go to church on Saturday. So my wife said, well, why don't we go to their church some Saturday and visit and ask the pastor? So we did, and God just pulled us in. A few years after that, God called me into ministry. Little did I know what it would cost me, although I've enjoyed ministry. We pastored for about 3.5 years in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Then we were asked to go to seminary, which we did, Andrews, Michigan. Wonderful place to visit. My wife caught a virus not long after we were there. She already obviously was spending a few hours a day doing breathing treatments, and we saw her health kind of little by little going down, and we're concerned. Well, we finally did find a specialist, and the day she was going to be going, I couldn't go with her. Her mom was in town. I was working with over at the school and had exams, so her mom went with her to the doctor. And when they came home and came through the front door, it was clear there was a problem. And I said, what did the doctor say? And he said, well, he said I've lost 30% of my lung function, and if I don't have a double lung transplant, I only have 18 months to live. So we drove to Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is where the doctor's office was. She gave them a sputum sample, and we're driving home and just praising the Lord, because we know there's so many antibiotics out there. God's going to come through. We got years in ministry together. God's with us. Got home, we get a call. Sorry, but your body did not respond to those antibiotics. We're going to need to set up an appointment for you to test some more. We thought, no problem, there's lots of antibiotics. So we went back to Kalamazoo, tested in, we're on the way home, thanking the Lord in faith, this is going to be good. We get a call. We're so sorry, but your body's not responding to those antibiotics. So what started was an emotional roller coaster of testing and retesting, and each time knowing this would be the time, and it wasn't happening. We even had new drugs brought over from Germany that nobody had used yet, and her body wasn't responding. Time is running out. And then we got a call one time after we had gone to the doctor. She'd given him a sputum sample, and we came home and they said, hey, good news. 2 of those antibiotics you've been using before, your body has given some response to those. We've called the transplant center and they want to see you. But we were sitting in the room with the doctors, excited because they called us, there's sensitivity, we're going to do this surgery. We're sitting in the room and we're not hearing it going in that direction. And finally one of the doctors noticed that and said, well, if you want to know the truth, I remember those words, and I thought that would be good. And then he explained, but not in these words. But he became very clear to all of us. He said, you know, we here at the such and such University Transplant Center have a very good track record and reputation for successful transplants. And because your sensitivity is really not where we would like it to be, we're not willing to risk our reputation on doing this surgery. You can imagine how we felt. I wasn't feeling very Christian at the time, but we left there just broken. While my past of teaching grief recovery helped me amazingly because I knew what to expect and how to deal with the feelings, it really couldn't have prepared me for the heartbreak. My life partner. And you know what? It helped me be so sensitive now to those around me. When their people are hurting, I enter into it now. Before I understood it up here. Now I understand it here. Somewhere along life I learned big boys don't cry. I was never told that. When I'd get hurt or frustrated, I'd just get angry. I was watching her go through this sickness and it was killing me because I couldn't help her. I mean, you ever been in that situation you want to help somebody and you can't? But this is where I found my relationship with Jesus just so helpful, because I don't know how I would have gotten through that and gone back into ministry without knowing that He would not leave me and I would see her again.